It's a little different than the offense in the fact that in conjunction with the defensive staff, what I'm saying I'm trying to get, I'm trying to get a two deep roster that we can play. Whereas that's not necessarily the case. Tanner is our left tackle. Okay, unless he gets hurt, Tanner's going to be our left tackle. And if we put somebody else in, it'll be to get them playing time. It won't be because they beat Tanner out. Okay, and our defense, what we're trying to do, granted, there's some guys like our secondary. Our starting secondary, okay, should be ahead of our backup secondary. They're way more experienced. Okay, they should be ahead of the second secondary. Okay, but we need to get on defense too deep that we can play. Because the league is a fast break league on offense. And if you just play the starters on defense, you're going to get worn out. So you better get into the two deep. So our number one goal on defense is not who the starting 11 are, who are the first 22. Let's get to 22. So my emphasis to our defensive players are to get into the 22. Now that's not the same case it is at positions on offense. Who's the backup quarterback? It's a question. I don't know the answer. Okay, first three receivers, all seniors, done a really nice job. Who can you count on at 4, 5, 6? Ragon's knee going to hold up? Okay, is that going to hold up? I'm not sure. What about those other tight ends? What's going to happen at running back? We know about Tony. Okay, James isn't playing the first 3 games. Is it Taylor Cox? Is it Bourbon? I haven't seen him either. I mean, so there's a lot of different questions depending on the offensive side of the ball than the different side of the ball. Okay, whereas on defense, we're trying to get to who the 22 are. What happens is if we rush end, so you have a strong side end and you have a weak side. Okay, so Tobin is a rush end. But if you go into teams where the teams try to mismatch you in games, okay, and get bigger on you, then Tobin would slide out to a linebacker and we'd put another defensive end on the field. So you didn't have a position where a 245-pound guy was your defensive end and 300-pound tackles were blocking you and they're running at you on every play. So the rush end / Sam shows you that those guys, those 3 guys, and really Neil Page isn't on the list, but he fits into that same position. The rush ends that could also play Sam linebacker, where Bakari and Prince and Tunde, they're both just, because they're smaller now, they're only 205 or whatever, they're just in space Sam linebackers.
Do Michael and Tobin have similar traits that make them, other than size, that make them suited to that, maybe mentally or?
Well, size and fast twitch. You know, they're both 35 pounds bigger than the other guys. So, I mean, girth is one thing. You know, so they put their hand on the ground and pass rush. That's what both of them could do. But they also both could stand up and line up in space when teams are trying to pound you. Because if you're small, that's what teams could do. They just line up, bring out the big boys, and just pound away at you. So you need to have a plan in place in case you decide to do that.
Same thing with Kiva. You've been hinting all summer that he was adding weight. When did you decide he should move inside?
283 or whatever, it's listed as 280, but he's probably a couple pounds more than that.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys you look at the picture and say, who is that? You know, once you have the girth to play in there, you need some girth to play in there. You can't just go put a guy that's 250 pounds in there. I mean, another guy whose body, I couldn't believe was the same guy as John Williams. I remember I haven't seen John Williams play a meaningful, he got hurt at the beginning of last year. So he was just kind of out there, eating free meals and running around there a little bit in the spring. But, where do you see him? He looks like a different person. His face is thinner and he gained weight. That's usually a good indication that it's the right type of weight.